Kids love food and we love kids. So let's get kids cooking. I am so jazzed to introduce you to Katie Kimball today. She's known as the national voice of healthy kids cooking. She's a former teacher, a two-time TEDx speaker. She's a writer and a mom of 4 kids. She's also created the Kids Cook Real Food eCourse, as well as a beautiful blog called Kitchen Stewardship. That eCourse is recommended by the Wall Street Journal as the best online cooking class for kids, which I love. Your blog is gorgeous and helps families stay healthy without going crazy. And she's on a mission to help connect families around healthy food, teach every kid to cook, and help families instill those all-important life skills we'll be talking about today. So, Katie, thanks so much for being here.
Thank you too, Melissa. I can tell just by your pre-questions, this is going to be a great conversation.
Let's start with a little bit of a memory here. I'd love to start with you sharing a memory of learning life skills as a kid. How has that memory shaped your trajectory?
I've never been asked this question, and I sort of sat back and went, oh, I have to really think, because, your kid memories are all compressed in adolescence. Yep. And they really are. There's like flashes. I have flashes of like having to stain our outdoor ties for 3 days in the summer. And, raking and like learning to clean the mirror. My mom would clean mirrors in the bathroom with newspaper, so it was streak free. I don't know if I've ever seen anyone do that. And so just very random things. But the few that I fell upon thinking about how it's changed my trajectory is that when I created our cooking class for kids, a lot of the phrases I teach are right out of my mom's mouth. So we teach kids how to stir to a uniform mixture. And I'm like, oh, that's the word my mom used to use. And the way she taught me to crack eggs, the way she taught me to clean up, the way she taught me to measure flour, like all of it is from her. And then a lot of times I would add maybe more fun words, but I thought, gosh, my mom really taught me a lot about baking. Now, I didn't learn a lot about cooking from her. I was sort of afloat, adrift as a young adult. But she was really excellent at passing on those sort of baking skills that had come from her mom to me. And so I value that legacy a lot. And my daughter, now my mom passed away a year ago. And my daughter still has her sourdough starter and makes her sourdough bread recipe. So just the history there. Yeah, I know it's so good. And the other memory that came to my mind actually was when I was in middle school. We traveled to Disney, and neither of my parents wanted to figure out, apparently, my mom tells this story, neither of my parents wanted to figure out how to get anywhere, how to use the buses, because I'm from a really tiny town where like there's no public transportation. Neither of them were familiar with that. And I was like, I'll do it. It was like totally my jam. I figured out the buses. I told them what to do, when to do it. And I wonder, looking back, if I processed at the time that was basically my parents saying, we can't help you. You're on your own, kid. Good luck, in a way, and because I was fiercely independent my whole like middle school, high school, young adult years, and just always had that attitude of like, I can do it. I can do that. And so I think in 2 ways, my parents set me up for that. One was teaching me some skills so that I had some success. And the other was like, well, go for it, kid. You figure it out.
Yeah. I love that. But that is such a good definition of life skills, which I would love for us to do next, because there's the beauty, especially we homeschool. I know a lot of families that may watch this homeschool. And so there's this kind of safety net area, especially in the homeschool community, where it's like, hey, we've got this space. You're in a safe spot. Let's go ahead and figure out some of these skills. And if you fail, it's totally fine. We're all here for you, but let's try it. See how it goes. And this can look really different in every family, but let's go ahead and define those life skills. It feels like a broad term. It gets thrown around a lot today. Could you share some of the areas of this category kind of encompasses?
For me, it is huge. You're absolutely right. And I mean, we've run our Life Skills Now summer camp for 3 seasons now, and we have over 250 videos with very little crossover. So if you want a number, there's more than 200 life skills to teach your kids, probably more than 500, because when you think about, there's 2 big categories. One would be those practical hands-on skills like cleaning the bathroom, using a power drill, just like really functional. And then the other is what they call the soft skills, which are harder to define. They're harder to nail down, and they're a little bit harder to pass on to our kids too, because a lot of it is mental, the way we think, the way we interact with others, the way we learn, and they're both really important. Some of those practical skills may become obsolete for our kids in the future, which is weird to think about, but it's still important to teach them those, because in so doing, they learn the soft skills. Like, how do we learn? How do we build a hard work ethic, right? How do we think about planning ahead and getting a project complete from beginning to end? All of those real intangibles are probably the more important ones, but the tangibles are the arena to teach the others, if that makes sense.
That makes so much sense. I love that. And just thinking about those soft skills, I mean, I would even add like perseverance and resilience when we do fail. My daughters in the summer when school is kind of lighter, my daughters cook lunch for us. They kind of alternate. And sometimes lunch is like, awesome. Oh my gosh, thanks so much for making this. And other times everybody's like, thank you for making this. It's just
no,
it's okay. It's edible. It's nutritious. We're fine. It's not the best meal, but it's okay. And so there's this kind of resilient thing like, I know what I did wrong. I put too much salt, or I know what I did wrong here. I can fix it next time. And there's no meltdown. It's just resilience. And so I totally agree. There is just kind of this hard and soft skill kind of mentality there. I love it. Okay. Well, as parents, there are so many of these skills that we can teach, and share some of the ways that you've seen families do this really well, kind of organically.
Some of my favorite stories of our Life Skills Now summer camp are the kids who are surprised, and parents will say, I never would have thought to introduce my child to this skill. So I'm thinking about a mom who wrote in and said, my 9-year-old took the podcasting workshop, which was from Pat Flynn of Smart Passive Income. And it really was the skill of interviewing well, which is super cool because it's also the skill of being a good conversationalist, of listening and asking questions. So it's, again, like broad to those soft skills. And she said, my 9-year-old took this workshop. He started interviewing his grandparents, his siblings, and he's really good at it. And she said, I don't know if he'll become a newscaster or a podcaster or, use this in a career, but it's just dipping that toe into something that his family neither had the knowledge of. They're not podcasters, nor would they have thought like, oh, we should see if our kid's a good interviewer. Like, who thinks that?
Right.
So that surprise is so precious. And my other favorite category of stories really is when the kids help out when it's needed most. So just recently got an email from Misty, who last year had a terrible TBI, and she's the mom in the family. And so, when you're mentally compromised, like she was out of normal life for months. Oh my gosh. And her husband really had to step up. And she said the Life Skills Now camp came at the perfect time, because not only did it give the girls some of those practical skills that we were talking about, she said, but it really gave them the boost to know that they could do hard things. And the family ran much smoother in those months that she wasn't out of commission, like in bed, but she was not up to like the snuff of normal life. And I thought, that's why we do this. Like, we never know what sort of emergency will happen, whether that's an emergency in the home where kids have to step up. I hear from a lot of moms bedridden with pregnancy, and they're like, you do this, you do that, let's figure this out,
Yeah.
But also just that idea of that boost to know that they can do hard things. If you have a social emergency or an academic emergency, right? As a child, there are mountains that they're going to have to climb. And so to give them that strength, I know you just called it perseverance. And I want to give parents like a really brief 3-part system to think about teaching life skills if this is all new to you. So step 1 is to become mentally aware. So just walk through your next few days and think, what skills am I using? Right? The tangible and the intangible. What am I drawing upon that as an adult I've built over the years? That's step 1. It's just become aware, because then you'll be more able to sort of, oh, this is an opportunity for teaching to the kids. Step 2 is to begin to narrate what you do, right? When you realize that you're using one of these skills, talk about it to your kids. We do this really well with toddlers. I think we parents are kind of trained to say, oh, honey, I'm grabbing a knife. This is a fork, right? We narrate everything. And then we kind of stop. But I think we need a little sprinkle of that even with our teens. I was narrating the other day. I was realizing that, my kids watch me buy things, whether it's groceries or curtains or whatever. And the way I spend money now is much different than when I was a young wife. Yeah. Right. Because we're just in a different social class. Yeah. And so I was kind of telling them, like, I never would have bought this flat of strawberries 20 years ago when we first got married, because this would have been like 10% of my grocery budget for the month. And you can't do that. I would have maybe bought a quart, or I would have picked, so I'm trying to help them get ready for their next phase of life, which is that like, you don't have any money phase of young adulthood, so that they don't think that they're going to vault right to where I am now, if that makes sense. So that's just an example of narrating for the teens. And then of course, step 3. So it goes from the mind to the voice to the hands. The step 3 is to really intentionally teach. And we've already talked about that space for failure, that space for practice, and just kind of letting the kids have some flexibility and have some time to settle into it. And I love how you describe that, you're under a safe roof, you're in a safe space to make mistakes.
Yeah. My gosh. Wow. Oh my gosh. There were so many good things in there. I love, number one, the Life Skills Now camp, which you guys can find below. You'll see everything, but I didn't realize Pat Flynn was in there. That's amazing. What? This is like, if you guys haven't heard that podcast, really good podcast. And that's huge. So maybe I'll pop my dog on that one too. But you're totally right. And I think that actually, even that podcasting example kind of plays into the realm of things that we wouldn't have imagined would be a skill that they might need. In our home, my kids see me editing YouTube videos, and my daughter kind of popped around and said, "Hey, I see you're like splitting video feeds and stuff like that. Why? Can you tell me how to do that? Can you tell me how to add that in? Can you tell me how to change the color?" And I'm like, "Heck yeah, let's do this." And she asked to, script a video with her friends. "Hey, can I write to my friend's parents? Can we script this? Can I edit it?" And I was like, take it all. So it's really fun to see when we have these skills, and if we can kind of arm them with those abilities where we're able. I wouldn't have been able to do that 5 years ago even. But the fact that there are resources out there similar to this, as well as kind of just the things that we already know how to do. Like you said, narrate those skills and share those when we might not even think about it. So I love it. All right. Well, sometimes we do need to outsource, as we've mentioned. So we might not feel equipped to teach these skills, or just might not have the time. Sometimes we're just up to here. Share a little bit about how you and your team help families looking to teach these skills that they're just not ready to teach. It's less about the skills, you think? What do you think?
Yeah, so our Life Skills Now summer camp has been going for 3 years at this point. And I think I already mentioned we have 250 skills already. And our goal with Life Skills Now is really to add like experts to your parenting team, right? So each season has between 50 and 70 experts. And then I want it to feel like a team. Like, okay, we parents are doing everything we can. We're being really intentional, right? We're striving, we're struggling. And at the end of the day, we're like, oh, are we doing it? We feel like, I don't know, we've learned that my audience feels a lot of parental guilt. And so for better or for worse, but it makes me happy to be able to step into that gap and to say, hey, you know what? If your kids don't want to listen to you teach them how to clean a bathroom or how to do the dishes or how to get stains out of the laundry that they have caused because they won't lean over. I have 3 boys. A lot of stains in this house. It's ridiculous.
Yes.
If they don't want to listen to the mom or the dad voice all the time, isn't it delightful to have someone else saying the same thing you're teaching them anyway, but it's in a really short video workshop form? So we kind of like feed into the kids' natural affinity for screens. They want to watch them anyway. And then we're like, all right, 11-minute video, you're done, off into the real world. And now you can do an action step. You can, take the camp leader's mission. We end every workshop with a mission. Go into the world and do this. So it's really helping parents both say what they're already saying, but from an outside source. And also that whole idea of maybe I don't know how to do woodworking. Maybe I'm a little rusty on my auto maintenance. I have no idea how to change a bike tire. These are just a couple examples of the hard skills that we teach. So it is really nice to say, maybe I'll sit here with my kid and learn a thing or two as well. And ultimately, so it is, like I said, it is about those tangible skills. We do want our kids to have something they can do, but the greater goal is that when they learn a skill, when they accomplish a task, it serves as proof to them that they can do something. And so the next time they encounter a situation, whether they have the skills to do it or not, just that attitude. I know I had it as a kid. I don't know where it came from, but I felt like I could accomplish anything I tried if I just asked enough questions and got a little help and had that good attitude. And so we need our kids to have proof time and time again. I did something, it was hard, and I made it to the end. Oh, I did another thing. It was hard. Oh, I failed, but I made it to the end. And the more we can stack that up, that really fills their self-esteem bucket and fills up, strengthens that resilience muscle so that no matter what life throws at them, they're ready.
Absolutely. And I think a lot of times in these teen years, I heard them referred to as the wet cement years. So a lot of what happens here with, these adult voices that are speaking, skills into their lives, the affirmation into their lives, support into their lives, it's okay into their lives. Those are the voices that are going to be playing over and over. And those are the, handprints or footprints in the cement that are going to go with them into young adulthood. And I think we're kind of similar. That was my attitude as a teen as well. Hey, I'm fine. I can get it done. It'll get done somehow. And so just kind of going with that confidence that seems absurd sometimes. And maybe it's not as common in this next generation with our alphas, but maybe this is just one more way we can give them that support, that scaffolding that they might need. So I love it. You have so many stories. Like you said, you've been doing this for years. You guys can find so much on Katie's blog and on the website. I want to hear a few more success stories from your own family. I'll add some in as well, but let's hear some of your Kids Cook Real Food stories, anything like that you want to share.
For sure. So I have 4 kids. They are 19, 16, 12, and 9, just to provide some context. And my 12-year-old John started learning cooking skills at age 4. So he's 4 in our little videos. He asked to learn to use a chef's knife by age 7. And so he's, been in the kitchen a really long time. And literally just last week, he saved me 3 times. So my calendar skills fell apart, and I actually scheduled myself to volunteer out of the house the exact same 3-hour block of time that I needed to be making my daughter's birthday dinner. Like, that's how I looked at the calendar and I went, oh, like half an hour before I had to leave the house. And I went, I was planning to spend these 3 hours making her dessert and cutting homemade French fries. I'm like, I'm stuck. I'm really in trouble. So John stepped up, used those chef's knife skills. He cut the watermelon, he cut the French fries. My husband did a lot of the cooking, and ultimately it worked out. But I could not have been more grateful that my 12-year-old had those skills already. Yeah. And just a few days later, I keep talking about these flats of Michigan strawberries because they're just like the best right now. And we were down to like the last quart, and it was getting a little not as good for eating. And he said, I'll make jam. 3 years ago, our summer camp was snacks themed. And he's like, I remember we had that recipe. Can you find it for me? And he made a quart of strawberry jam by himself with like no help. I thought, that's awesome. We did not have to have food waste going on.
Yeah. Yep.
And then at the end of the week, I had signed up to make tacos for 30 cast members in a musical. And I'm like, all right, I need a sous chef. So John and I just like inhabited the kitchen together. He browned the beef. He added all the seasoning. I was chopping stuff for the sides. And it was just so pleasant. Like, sometimes cooking is a chore. It's just something like, man, why did I volunteer for this to feed 30 like 3rd through 6th graders? But it was so nice to have him as my sidekick. So that's just one. Yeah, that's just one of my kids.
I love it. Well, and so many of those conversations over cooking, just task. We're just getting these tasks done. We don't need to focus, but like, we're just chatting. And those are some of the most natural conversations I think that happen. And it gives you kind of a common language too. So there's, even analogies. We find that I love when my kids kind of connect things that we're reading at school and that we've done in our own house. Oh my gosh, can you imagine canning a bunch of, preserves if we're reading about the 1800s on the prairie or whatever? Can you imagine? Yeah, I've tried to do that. That's really hard. They've got context, and it's really, I don't know, it's a cool kind of currency that you can have with your kids. So I love that. I'm going to add in a non-cooking one here. One of my kiddos, I don't know, when she was little, she just really was fascinated by sewing. And I could sew a hole in pants, but like not pretty. And she just got right into it. And so I was like, I don't know, should I be giving you like needles and thread? This sounds kind of dangerous, but like, I'll sit near you. She knows where the little bag of sewing stuff is. And then all of a sudden I was pulling stuff out of the washing machine, and I realized she had sewn sequins onto like the hems of some of her pants and on parts of her sweatshirt. And I was like, where did this come from? And how did it survive the wash cycle? Like, bravo, because it wouldn't have stayed on if I had done it. And so it's just really cool to see them kind of find their jam. If that's something that you enjoy doing, sure, I'm going to go maybe do a workout or go read a book, but you're going to sit up here, listen to an audiobook, and sew. And that's beautiful. And I think that's really cool and valuable for them to learn when they're little, that what they enjoy. They're learning about themselves. And they're going to spend a lot of time with themselves throughout their life, as well as other people. But at the same time, it's really important to know thyself. So I think it's cool. All right. Well, Katie, this has been really cool. We've covered a lot of ground. Anything we've missed? Anything you think we should throw in here?
I always try to encourage parents to figure out how to say yes, because we tend to have those mental psychological blocks where we're like, oh, I do not want to slow down my work right now. Like I'm on a deadline, I've got to get dinner finished. And so be creative and figure out when you can say, yes, son or daughter, you may do such and such or whatever. And just
I want to show people this. Can you tell us a little bit about how we can say yes with these things?
Oh, yeah. At kidscookrealfood.com, we've got our life skills. We call it our ages and stages goals. So it's just kind of, meant to be loosely followed based on your kid's maturity, personality, neurodivergence, or neurotypical, whatever. But it's just a neat checklist of like at age 2 and 3, what might you be able to expect out of your kids, and 4 and 5, and then up to the teen years. And it's not meant to be, oh my gosh, if you're not doing this at this age, you're behind. It's just a kind of mind opening, raise the bar. Like, oh, I never thought about teaching that skill to my kid at age 7.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. Sometimes we just don't know what we don't know. And we might be erring on the safe side, but kids are capable of so much more. I love it. I want to share one more thing that I loved on your blog. I think it's really cool when we've got just a source that we can trust. I think we can trust you. And you've got just the receipts to back it up. So you guys, if you're looking for information about nutrition and how to get kids working alongside you to keep your home running, I think this is a really cool source. Anything you want to point out on kitchen stewardship, Katie?
Well, when it comes to trusted sources, I am the sunscreen geek, actually, completely out of the kitchen. Our family has tested over 125 natural mineral sunscreens in the last decade. Yeah, like personally, we A/B test anytime that we're out in the sun. My poor kids have to put on 2 different kinds, and then in case they burn on one side, we know which one's more effective.
That's amazing.
So if you ever are shopping for sunscreens or want to know, the science behind it, I am your girl.
I love that. My mother-in-law is a dermatologist, so I feel that deeply. That's awesome. Okay. Well, Katie, we are going to go ahead and wrap up. And I love kind of hearing what people are dreaming about, what they're excited about in the next few months, in the next 6 months or so. Personally, professionally, what are you looking forward to?
That's a fun question. I'll share one of each. Personally, our community is doing Mary Poppins the musical this summer, and my oldest is Bert. My 12-year-old is Michael, and I get to be the evil nanny who's not in the movie, so nobody knows her, but she's super evil and has a witchy voice and a crazy song, and I get to fly off, like Mary Poppins is going to shoot me off the stage, and I get to fly in the air with a harness.
That's amazing.
That's going to be fun. I've never really, at least for 25 years, sung in front of people. So it's me showing my kids doing a hard thing, to be honest. Yep. So I hope I make them proud. So that's definitely the personal looking forward to. And then my professional goal in the fall is to sit down and write 1 of 2 book ideas that have been gestating for a long time. We'll see it. We'll see if I can get to it.
Oh, well, I'm cheering for you because I feel like there is so much wisdom that you've just amassed. And I think it is true wisdom because these are things that we're carrying on, equipping this next gen. And I love hearing kind of what you got going on. So you guys check out what Katie's got going on below. I will leave all those things linked there. And Katie, thank you so much for being here. And to those of you who are watching, if nobody's told you yet today, thank you. Thank you for what you're doing. It's really important, guys. Happy teaching.